Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt from Divination Counseling Service, here today to present the new moon of May 26, 2025. So we're looking at, again, the chart of Washington, D.C., but I want to talk mostly about the Aries point again and the Sun-Moon axis in the chart rather than the actual fact that it's in D.C. Just as I always do, want to start off with just a little bit of what's going on in DC, only because the chart does show some interesting things. And I'm going to start right off here with just inside of, and you can see this midheaven, so this is where I am right here. And basically what we're doing here is looking at Apollon. Okay, so we have a 5:42 midheaven, 5 degrees of Scorpio, 42 minutes of midheaven. At 5 degrees, 59 minutes, okay, so, a few minutes later, 10, 17 minutes later, you have the Apollon. Apollon's worth talking about here because what it's talking about is business, okay? But it's also talking about situations where there's more than one, okay? More than one issue, more than one problem. It is retrograde. These things could already be ongoing because of the retrograde status. The Hades then down here, because we got a 1331 off of a 1227. So we're slightly out of that 1 degree. I only like to go 1 degree, but we're so slightly out of it. But it's worth talking about because that 13 degrees is in aspect, that Hades is in aspect to Apollon. And this could be bad decisions, or bad things happening in business. And the reason why I say bad decisions is there is a Chronos with that Hades. But Hades is also running with ornamenta, okay? So we're also looking at things that are bad, but it's mostly surface stuff, okay? Say within partnerships, and there's this attitude of here we go again. But a lot of this is, how do I want to say this? It's all under the guise of Hades. It's like we're going through some things again, but there's an ornamental factor on it. Okay, so it's what things look like or how they're being expressed is more ornamental. Okay, and Hades Chronos, and we already know this because I've talked about this Hades Chronos deal, which is something we're going to be dealing with, all of us, in our lives, probably for the next 7 years, but really it goes beyond that even, but 7 years where it's really coming into being. And that's when I think we tend to feel things the most, because that's when it comes in almost surprisingly. Bad decisions made by people in authorities, and realize that this is going to be true in many work situations, okay? It's ironic because it's also in the United States chart right at the midheaven, which means that the rest of the world is seeing this, okay? These bad decisions, these bad judgments. And there's this sense of rolling the ball uphill. Here we go, Sisyphus, okay? Where it's like, didn't we already go through this? Now we're going to go through it again? That kind of thing. And it's here we go. All of that is an aspect to business. So it could be that you will deal with that in your workaday world. And again, because there's so much retrograde going on in that upper quadrant of the chart, I would have to say to you that a lot of this is already in process. Okay? So just wanted to bring that up. Politics is going to play a real role in money, but it's also, politics is a lot about people saying things they think you want to hear. Again, we're going out about a degree, but I have to say that that's all very interesting because it's coming with Calypso. And Calypso is telling us that not all the information is known. And that's not surprising dealing with this particular government in particular. But I want to stress this because if you're here in the United States and you're somewhere on the East Coast, this could play into your business or the business that you work for. Okay, so as we move on, I will say to you, food, nurturing, cusping stuff, it's almost like either the food's not there or the nurturing isn't there. There's no care. In the United States, we don't even have FEMA right now, which means that if your house just got blown down, there's no help. So there's a lot going on that could relate to Sears, but Sears is food. And it's the thing I get, it's nurturing, it's support, but it's food. And when I see it sitting at this cusp, okay, and again, it's out by about a degree. So we have this degree thing going on. I would say to you that there could be some concern in neighborhoods and communities as it's headed toward that third house. Okay? So there's not as much on this one. Health issues, wow. Let's just say that the health matters are also, there's a lot of, I want to say confusion there. There's, it's like, you don't know if you're going to get health care or not, you know? So it really is a very frustrating time with regards to health matters. So if you're somebody who has a health issue, health and well-being, there's a lot of frustration right now. I'm just going to say it that way. Okay. Some of the other people, it's definitely the house of self-expression. We're really being suppressed, even in the health world. So the other thing I want to look at is as we cross up here, and this is an aspect, okay? So everything else I've been talking about is like that within the degree, with the exception of Apollon, where I started, and ironically, where I'm going to end up, which is right here, which is there are endings, okay? And the endings are monies. Now, this is really interesting because I'm sure that this administration is not giving any money to either Israel or to Ukraine. Okay, and why I say that is because I see an ending with regards to a partnership. There's endings, and it's right on the cusp of combined monies or group monies. And so I think that's playing out here. Now, the interesting thing is, and I'm just going to throw this in here, this is out because I said I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do this only because it's sitting here. If you look at this cusp right here, you see here Bacchus. This is addictions. And it's like the ending of addictions. So addictions are usually considered addictive behavior type things. So, you know, you think of your usual drugs and alcohol, but think of things where workaholics. So somehow this is tied to the ending of addictions. Now, if you happen to be somebody who has a strong 23 degree, 24 degree fixed, okay, I actually do. And by the way, Uranus is, let me show you, okay, at 27 in Taurus, so there's a square there, okay? My feeling is that, you know, there could be some endings of some things that could even be related to your friends, to your spouses, to people that you're involved with business with. You might notice that people are getting a handle on their addictions. It's kind of ironic because I've been talking about my sugar addiction lately and how much I really am trying to deal with that. So understand that addictions are not necessarily obvious. we, all of us probably have some kinds of addictions, especially to foods that are not good for us. I'm going to start with that, only because that's where I'm working. So I'm not going to really go through too much anymore on this. This whole country is a mess right now, and it's really not, there's really not any point really talking about it as a politician in terms of politics. So once again, I want to nail it down to what I work with, which is the individual. I love listening to politics online. I listen to literally Senate debates. I listen to card readers who talk. But I myself have come to the conclusion that I am not as political as I am, and God knows I'm very political. That's not how I use my astrology. And because most of my work is done one-on-one counseling with people who have issues or are going through great transformations in their lives, that's more in keeping with where I'm going, which is where I'm going to concentrate the rest of this video. So I'm going to talk to us all as individuals as we now revert to the dial. Okay, so within the dial, I'm going to talk first about the axis of the sun. Before I get there, and I keep doing this, I know, must be in the stars today, I want to talk about the fact that at the Aries point is Saturn. Saturn it just crossed over that Aries point. And Saturn is about restrictions, it's about maturity, it's about systems, it's about our own discipline. And interestingly, it's running with Hera. It's a little bit, not quite a degree away. And that means that in some cases, people are realigning their partnerships. Notice that I said people. Yes, governments are too, but I'm not going to go there. I want to talk about the people. I want to talk about you and me, okay? And I know we're all being affected by this. I was talking to a friend on the phone this week and telling them that I was a little bit down, and his reaction was, who wouldn't be in this political climate? Okay, so there's truth in that. But, and I don't care where you live, I know that what's going on is affecting you too. But please be aware that Saturn crossing over the Aries point affects us all, because we are going to see the restrictions, the end of, or the suppression of certain things that are going to be restricted. And this, like I said, could be it within your own personal lives. I feel this personally. So there is this kind of restriction. In some respects, I have really good discipline, so I use Saturn a little differently, but it really is affecting me, okay? Now, let me give you an example here. One of the things that it really affects, okay, if you ever run into a person who is a Sun Saturn, so they have Saturn very close to their Sun or Saturn close to their ascendant, they tend to be worker bees, okay? They tend to be all serious, all work, all the time, okay? It is what it is. I have a good aspect to Saturn, but I'm not I'm a worker bee, yes. That's why I work for myself rather than for other people. But the discipline here is that I'd rather do without and work for myself than work for somebody else who'll take advantage of me. So you can look at Saturn in different ways. People who have Sun, Saturn very close together or in a very kind of configuration, they'll work for they will do what they have to do, unlike me. Okay, I want to make that distinction. This particular Aries point is also coming with a Moon Zeus and a Sun Zeus. And Zeus is your productivity. Zeus is your inspiration, your enthusiasm. And I gotta tell you, you got a Moon Zeus, you're productive, but with Saturn, you got to ask yourself if you're productive in a positive way, or is this production oppressive? Is it so productive that you can't catch a breath, that you can't catch you're just like flying, going, okay? I can see that around me with other people. That is really already beginning to happen. Okay? So it's really awful. It's sort of like some people are not working at all and they're upset, and then other people that are left are working 5 times harder, so they're oppressed. Now, all of this equals, well, I'm going to talk about both of these, Valentine and Urania. Now, Urania is astrology. Now, could this be that astrology or logical thinking is being restricted? Only you could answer that, okay? Because again, look to your work, look to your business, look to what's going on in your life, okay? We all have been saddled with a little extra responsibility. Even people who are retired right now seem to be in the middle of things, whether it's taking care of elderly parents or grandchildren. I could give you many examples, okay? I think that with Valentine there's something that you might be excited about is restricting you. But it could also be a health issue. And remember, health issues showed up in the Washington, D.C. chart, only that there were matters of concern there. Okay? Or your partner has health issues, as this seems to discuss more. Okay? The Poseidon has already moved out. Okay, so Poseidon has moved out of the Aries point by 1 degree and 1 moment. Okay? But the sun and the moon are running with Chiron if you go there. And I'm only going to go here for a moment to talk about something. And that is that Poseidon is enlightenment. Poseidon is propaganda, gaslighting. It's, so it's enlightening, but at the same time, it can be lightning. Enlightening, lightning. So with Chiron, one of the things I'm going to tell you here, and with Apollo, is that we're really slow learners, people. We're really slow learners. That's what it's saying, okay? Or our partners are. Because remember, Hera is across the dial, so it's like, whoop, partners are. Somebody's slow. The way to deal with that is by taking the approach of the wounded healer, or as I like to call it, the alternative practices, okay? Because it's Chiron. Chiron is affecting both the sun and the moon, which means that the way out of what we're dealing with right now, whether it's in your own personal life or it's because of a partner, is you will have to look for alternatives because there are roadblocks on what might have originally been considered. Okay? So let's start, so I just wanted to go through that. But let's go to the sun axis first. And then I'll come back to that Aries point. Because whether you're affected by the sun axis point, okay, there we go, or you're affected by the Aries point, either one, you're probably affected. So I'm getting a really good shot of hitting every single person I'm talking to out there, okay, just with these 2 points. And again, it wouldn't be as exacting as if I were looking at your chart and putting it on against this, but you're going to get information from these 2 axis points. So I want to start off with the sun axis, and I wrote all this down because here we go. Okay, so the sun is at 6:05, the sun and the moon. It's a new moon. You know what new moon means. This is the new beginnings. What we could look forward to the next 4 to 6 weeks. Some people tell me privately that because I do this I do private work with lunars, and this is kind of a lunar thing. It can go longer, and realize that in the case of a new moon, it can also go longer. But let's say that we're talking 4 to 6 weeks. We got right where I am here, and if you notice, here's Icarus. I'm going to get back to these guys, okay? Which is risk-taking. Okay, and remember, some of the alternative stuff that I just got done talking about, you could seem risky to you because it is alternative. It's not traditional. But taking risks, a lot of people taking risks and they're within a degree is Venus. So we're taking risks. This is our connections, moon, sun, our connections, our new beginnings, are maybe taking risks with either our friends, our social lives, or with money. Okay, it's a little risky. That's what it feels like. It's just a little risky. And that is a part of this chart. All right. The other point that I'm looking at is over here at 2105. Okay, see, this is in the 20s. This is 2105. That's your other point, which I'll be coming back to with asteroids. The other point we're going to be looking at is 1335. This way. Okay, so 1335, how about that right there, is another axis point. And again, we don't have anything down here, but if you look up here, Arachne, it's going to be complicated. Whatever is going on is filled with intrigue, complication. It's very layered in terms of how it operates or how it works. If you're somebody who just wants peace in your life, take up knitting or crocheting, which is also about this asteroid. But this asteroid tells us a lot, okay? And it's in that axis. So one of the things that I did is if I go back to the original axis, and I'm just going to do this for the midpoints, just for the moment, and we're going to go 5 minutes. Okay, here we have node Mars. Okay, so we can look at it, okay, sun, moon, our connections, node is connections, and Mars is aggressive actions by our connections, by something. It could even be anger. They're angry, maybe you're angry. But it's aggression. It's impulsive actions. It's, okay, but again, it's with the node. So it's within our connections, within our sphere of people that we deal with on a regular basis, especially those closest to us. And how the node Mars, okay, can also be regarding, we're going to take risks. Now I'm going to pull up, let me take a moment here, and we're going to take a minute, and I'm going to grab this asteroid list. Okay, so we talked about that node Mars, which is, oh, by the way, sex unions. No, what can I tell you? But it is that mutual activity that I was talking about, okay? It's mutual activity. It's, being involved. Because, again, it's unions of people where they're working, okay? So as I go through my list, okay, we have, now, just like the last video I did, I think that was a full moon, there's Aries point. Where they cross over the Aries point. In other words, there's points in this axis. Let's talk about that for just a second. There are points in this axis that are very close to its own Aries point because the Aries point is 730 and we're at 605 and that's in the mutables, okay? So you see that connection there. So it's slightly more than a degree. It's like 30 minutes more than a degree. The same can be said over here, okay, where it's 2230, all right? When I get to down here at 1335, we're the same thing because if we had something at 1435, I would consider it in there, okay? So I do want to talk about that because some of these asteroids are going to cross over and I'm going to talk to you about them, all right? So some of them are in the Aries point and I will let you know. I'm going to start off with, we talked about it already, okay? Now, I hate to start off this way, but it is what it is, okay? I hate starting off with this, but Venus is running with McGregor. I don't know if you remember it from the last video, but McGregor is one of the con men. We have several asteroids that meet con man, but it's literally running with the con man. So please, people, be aware that McGregor is running with Venus, which could mean that one of your friends is a con man, because Venus is our social life. Remember that it is running with the sun and the moon, our connections, and then Icarus is there also. No surprise that it would be running in the DC chart either, but please be aware that we're all got to stay on the lookout for con men, okay, because they're everywhere. And I'm going to tell you this, that not only is Venus running, okay, it's also telling you that people in authority are con men, because the crone is above that. Now, I didn't include it because it's a little bit out of the axis. Not a lot, but it's a little bit out. But it does, however, aspect Venus. I really have to tell you this stuff because at least I can tell you where to look. I can tell you with Morden, it's getting worse. So we've got Venus, McGregor, and then Morden. Morden is actually an Aries point. Bing, right on it. 10 minutes out. Okay? So I want to talk about it with the sun axis because I think it's really meaningful there, as I'm going to do with some of the other Aries points. So I'm going to make a note that I already talked to you about that. I don't have to go through that again, but please be aware that it is getting worse. Also running with the sun axis. Now this is huge. So I'm talking about over here, and I'm going to talk about a lot, because it actually starts with Pythia, which is right here, if you can see my cursor. And so we have Pythia, which actually has something on there. And Pythia is that you intuitively know that some things are going on. You just know, okay, I know that's happening. But the way it works out, or the way it ends up, may not be exactly what you thought. Okay, so it's sort of like your intuition's working, but not completely. So be on the lookout for that. It's coming with Iyengar, which is structure. To me, it's structure. It's one of the asteroids I've added to the list because I'm a yogi and it's a yoga. And one of the things that I can tell you that it does work, is that Iyengar is the most structured yoga there is, okay? It's very structured. Unlike vinyasas, which you kind of move through, Iyengar is absolute. It has an absolute structure. So, it's also really hot. So there's a little bit more to the Iyengar and its structure. So we've got Pythia structure. So we might think that the structure will work, it'll hold up, and then it doesn't. Okay. Icarus is running with this, and I told you that's us taking risks. And it's also taking risks on our connections. As I'm here at this point, let me just throw this in here. Roche is running also with this whole thing, but Roche is also using medical for bladder problems. So people who might have health issues with their bladder, and and this is blood. So we could, look at that for some people, not everybody. It also could be dwarfism or something that's small. So it's in there. I don't know why I have it in my regular list, but it's more of something that is used in health. But here's one for you. The sun and moon are also running minutes away, 4 minutes away to be exact, from Blarney. Blarney's lies. Okay, so we got lies about money, people taking risks, and there's a con man. Okay, you can really build stories just by going around and doing this. De-arrest does run with this, which means that there could be a stoppage. Okay, what will cause that stoppage? I don't know, but there is a stoppage here. Now, could it be that a con man takes all the money and that causes? It could go any way that it can, because these are just words that create stories. Okay, and the stories you're living. So as I get to the next sun axis area, we have the word prior, which means that something that's already, it's funny because I talked about it in DC's chart, the whole quadrant that was in retrograde, things are already ongoing. Well, this is kind of telling us that things from the past or things that happened prior are going to be very activated even within our own charts within this sun, moon, new moon axis point. Now, it's also running with two, and I'm going to go through them here too, two Aries points, okay? Because now we're talking about the Aries points across the way. Okay, and these Aries points are computer hacks, people. One of the things we have to realize is there's a lot of hacking going on, whether we're aware of it or we're not. There is hacking going on. I'm not just talking about scams on computers. I'm talking about big things, okay? They're being hacked. And I'm also going to tell you that the hacking is destructive. And the reason why it's destructive is it's part of a plan to reconstruct. Okay, so say that you're working in a factory, and in that factory they're looking to do something different or better, or take less time, whatever reasons, and they have to destroy what they're doing in order to set up the new system. Okay, I have theories that's what's going on in our transportation. Okay, just FYI. I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying, wow. And then I see it in the chart. It does give me pause. That's all I'm going to say, okay? But look for it in your own lives, okay? Because I know people who are working in situations where this also applies, okay? The next ones that I'm going to look at, and I'm going to include Aries in this as well, is Odysseus, things that are happening at a distance. Not far from that, although I didn't include it, is Pinocchio, more lies. Now remember, Blarney's already in there. Okay, so we already have Blarney. Now lies. So it's really interesting that there could be some lies. Also, guys, if you have cats, kitties in here, and I'm not sure why, so keep an eye on your cats. Make sure your kitties are okay. And I don't want to say kitties lie, because goodness knows they never lie. I'm cats and dogs, so I'm a pet person. Anyway, Odysseus though is about foreign. Okay, so foreign entities, foreign money. If you live in a different country and you were connected to the United States, yikes. That's all I'm going to say. So look for some of this stuff. Okay, now, we talked about Valentine down here, which is things that, we could get excited about, okay? This tells us that what we're getting excited about is probably on the computer. So it's social media, it's websites, that's probably where a lot of people are getting their news. Whoops, including me. Why listen to legacy news? It's not telling you anything, only unless it's the magazine stuff or it's very, very local. I don't really see the point to even listening to that. I've never been a news person for television news, ever, ever, ever. I tend to read my news, and also I tend to like to research things. So the computer is a great outlet. But look for that as well. What's exciting you? If you're listening to certain people, really, really listen to whether or not they're honest and they have integrity and all of that other stuff. Because remember, con man is still in here. Okay. So I moved to the further down, and we did already talk about this, Arachne. Now, Arachne is definitely in the sun axis. And it is that intrigue and its complications, and we saw it at the very top of the chart. It's this thing here. And it's running itself. Now, this is not in the axis point, but it's running with Hippocrates, which is health. So again, health shows up. Just be aware of that, because there could be some complications with regards to some things that are related to, it could be even the health of a situation, the health of, it's so filled with intrigue that it upset the health of the health and well-being of the situation. But it is really health. It's your doctors, it's your health. Ironically, I just got over something myself that kind of took me by surprise. I was sick for days. Fortunately, it was just sinus, but really sick with sinus, which is odd. So realize that could be, and it started with allergies. Talk about complications. So that was when Neptune crossed over the cardinal point. I am very sensitive to the cardinal point myself. So if you're someone that's sensitive to the cardinal point, please, please pay attention to your health. Listen to your body. So I'm going to move into the next area, which again is going to include the Aries point. Okay, and ironically, one asteroid really hits the Aries point by a degree, and the other one's only out by 7 minutes, but it's in the Sun axis. Because remember, the Sun axis is only a little deviation from the Aries point. And here, these are both in retrograde, but we have Win and Duke, big money. Win and Duke. Now they're retrograde. And we got the con man, and we got Venus, and we got Arachne. I think we all need to follow the money. I don't care who you are. Okay, because that's going to be really important moving forward. Asteria is also running in this axis point, and that's prayer, meditation. That's help from this other side. That's help from our guides. That's help from the divine. And my feeling is all you have to do is ask. That's in the Aries point. And I can tell you that with all of these things shifting into different signs, we have all the slow movers moving on into different signs. It's changing everything. And because of that, we have divine grace. So do look for that. I'm going to get back to, it's not far from an Aries point, but it's not really an aspect, so I'm going to jump over that. The next area that brings us to the Sun axis, but I am going to include the Aries axis here, is that there are some really terrible, sly, slick, underhanded people. And we have to learn to speak up and speak out. And sometimes we don't because we're afraid of the retaliation. But I think people will be more likely to take the plunge in the next 4 to 6 weeks because what they've been undergoing, because of the retrograde, has been going on for some time. And it's like, okay, I can't deal with this evil anymore. It's really going to cross a lot of people's mind. They're going to say it just probably like that. It's also talking about, and I talked about this, that idea of destruction in order to rebuild. But what we have to be careful of is our pride, our egos attached to some of this stuff. And we have to let it go, no matter how much ego you have involved in it. If it's no longer working for you, you have to let it go. Because Varda is also here, which means the truth will set you free. You have to be willing to look at the truth, though. Each of us in our own individual lives, we have to all do a little bit of waking up. We've all counted on things being a certain way for a long period of time, and those things are no longer that way. Whether it's the job you work at and the changes that are happening there, or if it's in your personal life and it's the increase in your family, or it's the more demand on you with regard to your family, whether it's more babies being born or if it's the elderly that need help, there is more demands on all of us. And that is also Saturn at the Aries point. So I'm going to just one more little area here. First of all, there's on the Sun axis in retrograde is the asteroid Wake. Okay. Now, I live in a country that's so anti-woke, it's disgusting, okay? I'm woke. I'm okay with it. I love being woke. Or as my daughter says, I want to be woke because I want to be nice. Okay. Well, guess what, people? We're all waking up. So the anti-woke concepts is not going to go over very well as we proceed through the next 4 to 6 weeks. We are all waking up. Okay. Good news, actually, in a way. And the other one that I want to look at is, as you wake up, you have to realize that this is a journey that we're all taking, and we all have to take it alone. In other words, you know how they always say, we all come in alone and we go out alone. Okay, and we're born alone. Well, not always, because we have twins, and we die alone. Okay, I don't know how much I would put stake on that, but I would say to you that there are journeys in life that we can only do by ourselves. And that unless you experience it within your own breath, with your own eyes, with your own hands, you don't learn. And so we're in a phase right now where we do have to go off on our own. In some cases, it might be leaving relationships. In other cases, it might be leaving friends. In even more cases, it might be leaving jobs. Okay, but it's a journey that only you can do on your own because you're tired of being humiliated. You're tired of the humiliation. So you're waking up, and that's a good thing. Okay, so I'm just going to fill in the gaps here. Aurora tells us in the Aries point. So now I'm going to go straight through the Aries point so I can finish up the video and stop yapping. Okay, so we've got Aurora. It's crazy, man. The energy is scattered and it's all over the place. And it's just, wow. Who knows where to begin and where to end, okay? It's Aurora, okay? It's very scattered energy. Can be very kind of chaotic with that. The other Aries point one that I did not get to was, because I just didn't want to talk about it, was Smiley. Please, people, if somebody comes at you smiling at you, telling you how great everything, please be discerning. Because they're not what they say. Remember? Other things that I missed here. Please be aware that Urania is also running with swindle. Somebody could literally use logic to swindle you. Let's hope they're not using astrology to swindle you. Okay? Or computers. Please be careful of computer scams with this combination. Anybody out there right now could be scammed with this new moon. Okay? Please be aware of that. Just making sure I got it all. And I believe I did. Don't take shortcuts. Please be awake. Somebody's nice and just smiles. Don't just give them the shirt off your back. Please make sure that they deserve it and that they earn it, okay? Because my biggest concern in the Aries point is we seem to continuously have swindles and con men, and I think I've been talking about it for like the last 3 videos. Speaking of which, thank you for watching this video. And really, I appreciate all of you. I know I don't have a lot, but I appreciate every single one of you. And thank you for supporting this channel. Until we meet again, I wish you only happy reading.